Turn it off.
You should read the ad, but what you do... Have you seen that James Bond movie when Javier Bardem is the bad guy and his face melts? And he goes, "Oh, mother, you look what you've done." That's how you have to say synonym. You just have to imagine that your face is melting and say synonym. So you go.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about. Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're heading out on climbing, paddling, trapping or running adventures, look no farther than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the summer. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham, Otautahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz. Yoo!
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 311 of the Dirt Church Radio Trail and Ultra Marathon Podcast. I'm Matt Raymond.
And I'm Andrew McDowell, coming to you from a car.
I thought our days of car recording were over when we made the change. Quite a bit of Dirt Church Radio was car-based with old Huge and I, but where are you? I know you're in a car. But...
Yeah, I'm in a car. I'm at the Lake Taupo holiday resort camping place, and my whole family's outside playing football really loud, so I'm in a car and it's steamy. I can tell you it's very steamy right now, but hey, we're here. I'm committed, mate. I'm on a holiday and I'm doing a episode of Dirt Church. Let's go.
Love it. How's the how you rolling? I mean, you got pacing duties at Tarawera coming up in a couple of weeks, but the big focus on you is Northburn. How's that going?
Yeah, a bit average. I got a bit of a sore foot thing, which I'm too stubborn to go see someone about. You know, do as I say, not as I do. I'm a perfect example of that. So that's kind of curtailed long runs. So everything's been really short because anything over sort of 10 or 15 Ks kind of hurts.
Yeah, right.
So that's why I'm running 30 Ks tomorrow. But otherwise, still good, mate. But I mean, your one's much sooner than mine. You've been putting in some big runs, eh?
I have, and maybe you caught your sore foot off me. But last big run happened about an hour ago. So heading into taper now, and not the ideal last block with dealing with injury, but overall pretty good. And really appreciated the advice from you and Ali last week on the taper episode.
Oh yeah, nice.
Just talking about that. You know, just actually going, hey, wow, it's okay.
It's going to be okay, man.
It's going to be okay, man. So,
let's see, 31.28 kilometers today, Matt.
Yeah.
Just stalking you now. And it looks like pretty consistent, mate. You know, you're holding some good pace all the way to the end, so feeling good.
Yeah, I think for me, when know that I'm feeling fit is when my fitness shows up in the last kilometers, not the first.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that's when you kind of put the feeling good, and also when if I get a lift from something like music. So I put on one of my favorite records in the last little while, and that really, really helped. You know, if I can get a kind of lift from that, that's when I know sort of things are going.
Are you going to be one of those guys who's just like the last 40 Ks, your pacer comes along, he's all ready to do everything, and you just put the headphones in and just don't talk for the whole 40 K? Are you going to be that guy?
No.
Okay.
Well, I actually don't know, and that's the thing. I don't know what guy I'll be.
No, nobody does.
I don't know what Matt Raymond will turn up. They're pretty. Actually, to be fair, I'm pretty much one speed in terms of who I am, and I will more than likely have the headphones out at some point between the Rere Whakaitu and Okataina, because due to the fire risk, the outlet aid station now has no support access. Yep. So it's going to be a reasonably long time, like close to 60K between crews. So I will no doubt have the headphones out by that point.
Yeah, okay. Well, that is quite a long section, isn't it? Far up.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's and you don't want to bugger around, as we know and learnt on the global scale. We don't want to bugger around with forest fires, do we?
No, we definitely do not. Hopefully, we've had a bit of rain, so let's hope things will be dampening down a touch. But I guess we're still a few weeks out, aren't we?
Yeah. Hey, one of the best things, apart from the return to the car-based podcasting, is since you and Ali have come on board, you've been ripping around interviewing tons of people, left, right, and centre. And late last year, you spoke to the American professional runner Amanda Basham.
Yes.
Tell us about her.
Well, it was, it's funny because it was kind of like I'd done little interviews, but she was the first proper interview person that I'd ever done. So it was quite nerve-wracking actually just talking to someone that cool, you know. But she was so lovely and like just so happy to talk. Great to hear some of her stories. You're going to hear them in the recording in the podcast. But you know, she's superwoman, man. Just how she was able to bounce back from children and get straight back into training and racing at a speed that most people would consider impossible. I found it all pretty fascinating. So you'll enjoy that story for sure.
And recently third at the Arc of Attrition in Cornwall, which looked brutal. Arc of Attrition by UTMB. Do you see the DNF right there? It was insane.
Oh,
I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was higher than what one might consider a usual for a race.
I'm at a campsite, mate. I don't know what's going on in the world. Yeah.
But one of the things I loved about Amanda is she talked about the fact that her and her husband, Justin Grunwald, obviously well-known professional runner himself, having young kids, and young kids are reservoirs for illness, and how, you know, it's really refreshing to hear someone say, like, I've got young kids and they make us sick. So dealing with that sort of stuff, we've all been
there. Yeah. First week of daycare for your first kid. You'll catch every disease in the world. Like,
absolutely.
As a parent, you're like, I've been healthy for 10 years. What's just happened? Something's just happened. Yeah.
So before you die of heat exhaustion, and we pump through to the Amanda Basham interview, we should do this, which is the greatest run ever.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Brought to you by Squad Run. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link at the website, which is dirtchurchradio.com. This is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us. Tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. It might just be a run around the block. Something that's sung to you for some reason. Send them in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. And this is from Kate Jackson, all the way from the Blue Mountains. She says, "Hi, Ali, Andrew, and Matt. I wanted to send in my greatest run ever. I hope you enjoy. My greatest run ever starts 8 days before running through the start chute. It was remarkably hot. The Gary Weird slabs of rocks radiated a tale of the heat that had been and the heat that promised to continue before the rain set in. I willed my body over the finish line in 30-something degrees heat, declaring the GPT 50 the hardest 50K I'd ever done. Once the heat stress had subsided, I knew I had one cycle to repeat for the next 8 days: water, food, sleep. I was, as it turned out, about to run my greatest/worst run ever. I felt good lining up at the start of the Ultra Trail Kosciuszko 100K. Having just run through Gary Weird, one of the most beautiful landscapes I'd ever seen, I was overwhelmed with gratitude for all the beauty I was about to see at Kosciuszko, and for all the beauty trail running had given and shown me. Nature was beautiful but wild. For every perfect run, there is surely another around the corner to remind us how wild it can be. It was cool, then warm, then cold, then sunny, then cloudy. I went up too hard, the 50K 8 days prior catching up with me. I told my husband this at the first aid station, who promptly apologized for forgetting my tried and tested liquid fuel. I filled up my flasks with the aid station fuel and anxiously trotted off, thankful that I could now take things at my own pace without the rushing and stomps of eager keen beans behind me. Here began my traverse into the pain cave. My stomach was cramping in protest to a fuel that I did not usually use. I struggled, oscillating between walking and running. At least the cheese graters would not claim me as another victim. Yeah, those cheese graters, man. Ooh. After summoning Kosciuszko, the cheese graters in Kosciuszko, they're like metal grates that they use when it's
up the top there towards the summit. Yeah,
brutal.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
And some people got seriously jacked up on them the first year. After summiting Kosciuszko, this beautiful wilderness decided to remind us why alpine regions are infamous. They stopped the race, someone said. We waited and waited. I called my husband and said through blubbering tears, I'm not sure I can do this. Yes, you can, he encouraged. Just get to the next aid station. You can have some hot noodles. Hot noodles apparently fix everything. 2 hours later, 2 hours later, I set off, allowed to continue, but not sure I wanted to. I ran until I couldn't and walked until I felt like I could run again. The rain battered down with infinite vigour, making the trail relentlessly slow as we trudged through mud, almost unable to remain upright. My stomach cramps subsided as I headed into the night, and for the first time all day I could feel some form of normality returning. I started overtaking runners, feeling renewed as my stomach calmed. During every 100k I've ever done, which is 3 so far, I've experienced a sudden realization at what I'm doing, where I am, and how special and crazy it is. Ascending Dead Horse Gap in the early hours of the morning, and bugger that. Like, bugger that. The rain still unfailing. I thought to myself, I'm experiencing something in a time and place that hardly anyone gets to experience. I was in awe, my mind amusing itself. Then I'd see some high-vis vest ahead, the only reminder that I was, in fact, still in the race with other humans. As I turned my headlamp off, descending from Eagle's Nest to the finish line, I knew that this was the greatest run ever. It tested me in every way, and despite it all, I'll be back again and again, as long as my legs continue to carry me. She says, thanks for all that you do, both inside and outside the podcast. Keep up the great work. Sending well wishes from the Blue Mountains. Thanks, Kate Jackson. And I want to say, like, coming down from the Eagle's Nest, I don't know if you've seen the Eagle's Nest, Andrew. People were running down there in the dark without their headlamps on. And that is, no one died, put it that way.
Why were they doing that?
I don't know. Maybe Australians have superior night vision to keep. I'm not sure.
No, we're not giving them any credit. I just want to know from Kate, like, when's the divorce? Because that guy for getting fuel, like, come on, bro. You think a pot of noodles is going to make it up? Bro. Jeez. Okay. All right. Yep. Well, that's amazing, though. So in a space of 8 days, Kate ran a 50k and a 100k, and that was at the Grampians, which we now know is more correctly called the Garrawerd region or area of Australia. So that's super cool.
Incredible. That is some incredible, incredible stuff. And now I'm very, very excited to bring you the conversation that yourself and Ali Pottinger had with ultra athlete, endurance coach, and amazing human being, Amanda Basham.
All right. It is with great pleasure. Amanda Basham, welcome to Dirt Church Radio.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk.
Where are you getting you from? Are you, is it Colorado?
Yeah, I live in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, the Mecca, the ultimate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're up in the mountains, though, so we're out of town. We're still Boulder, but we're a little bit removed from all the busyness. So whenever we need some training buddies, we go to town, but we can also just kind of chill out here in the silence if we want.
Because on my mind, it's just a town where there's literally just hundreds of epic trail runners just all the time, just running around the place. Is that relatively...
Oh, there are. Yeah. I mean, there's certain spots where, you know, if you're going to go do a run there, you're going to see Olympians. I mean, and not just runners, like triathletes, cyclists, just everyone. It's a weird but really cool bubble we live in.
How high is it there above sea level?
Well, town is only about, I think, 5,400 feet. But we live up in the mountains, so a little higher, so we're at 7,600.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's hard running out here. I did a hill workout out here today, and it was, it's really hard.
It's well over 2,000 meters, isn't it? It's about 2.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do maths in my head, but yeah, it's a lot.
I think it's like 2,500 meters.
That's got to be a huge advantage when doing some of these mountain races, right?
I mean, I think so. You know, like a lot of times, even going to UTMB, people are like, oh, but the altitude. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not even that high. Like the highest point is basically where we live. So it's not really like a concern for me. I never have to think about it. So that's nice.
And you actually, that's the one into Switzerland, isn't it? You only actually just go up for a few minutes, really. And then you plunge straight back down again, don't you?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a hard climb, but like it would be hard whether it went up high or not, you know. So the altitude is just one little factor that we don't really have to think about. I mean, unless we go to like the Leadville 100 or something, but we also have an advantage with that because we live higher than most people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I find even 2,000 meters suddenly feels hard, unusually hard. I live at 30 meters. So it's quite a shock.
Yeah. Well, I grew up at sea level. Or we were probably at like about the same. We were at like 100 feet maybe. In Oregon, and it was definitely a change when I came out here. And it probably I felt like it took me a full year to feel okay at the high altitude, and then now I'm fine. But
wow,
it was just like a little bit of extra suffering like every day for that whole year. And then I finally felt good.
When did you move there, Amanda?
Well, the first time was in 2015. And then I left for a job in Utah and was in Utah for a couple of years and then came back.
Oh, good old Utah. Gee.
Yeah, Utah's nice too.
Yeah, I've been through there. We got pulled over by some cops in Utah once, but that's a story. That's a story for another day. Let's talk New Zealand. Your relationship with New Zealand. You've obviously been to Tarawera a few times. I mean, how did that sort of enter your radar? Why New Zealand?
You know, I don't remember the very first time. I think, the sport is small and everyone, in the grand scheme of the world, it's pretty small. And so I feel like for the first few years of running professionally, I basically just traveled the world with my friends. It was pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty awesome lifestyle. And then I think it was because a few people had mentioned going. I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember. I think the first year I went was 2017.
If I was a professional, I would have written down what year you came, but I didn't.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was 2017. And then I came again. I mean, after you have kids, I swear the times just like mush in your brain and everything is just one time, And so I can't even remember. It's like sometimes I think something was a year ago and it was really like 5 years ago. But I've been there 3 times, I think. I would love to come back. I love it. And then I convinced Justin to go. We couldn't go together, but my husband got to go last year on his own. But I think for your original question, I'm pretty sure it was a bunch of friends talking about what races we were going to do. And Tarawera was it talked about as like a really cool spot to go. It was competitive. It was kind of a big deal to do well. And that always is what kind of draws me to things.
We also have no bears and mountain lions and snakes, and it's...
Yeah, exactly. It's like no predators.
No predators. Apart from the odd falcon that will try and take your head off if it gets too close, if you get too close to the nest.
Well, we've had a few mountain lions roam in our neighborhood lately, so I'm not a big fan of that.
Oh, yep. Eugene loved mountain lions, didn't he? One of the original hosts. He would always, if you mentioned the word mountain lion, he would run for the hills.
Oh, funny.
Irrational fear.
I don't want to see those.
Fair. I've seen a clip of them and they look pretty frightening.
Oh, yeah. And usually, I'm sure some have seen me, because they usually see you before you see them. But that's fine. I just never need to see them myself.
You were a competitive athlete prior to having children. How have things changed post-kids and how hard was it getting back to that level again? And what challenges have you or do you face and how do you fit it all in?
Oh, man. That's a loaded question.
I know.
How long have you got?
Sorry.
Well, yeah, so where do I even start? It has changed a lot. Also, it's interesting because it's changed a lot and not that much at the same time. And what I mean by that is like, we still travel around and just take the kids and we race and train and kind of do all the things that we did before. It's just so much harder. And to fit it in and to feel rested and feel good and feel like you're prepared to run 100 miles through the mountains or 100K or whatever it is a lot more difficult. I think too, especially obviously since I birthed them, took a bit for my body to get back to normal. And I had a lot of pain. Like I never had a serious injury, but it felt like it. I was convinced I had a stress fracture at one point. And, when you're going through like newborn and toddler phase and then a toddler and a newborn at the same time and breastfeeding and trying to train, it's so hard to like find a specialist to go look at and figure out what the issue is and work on your strength training and do all these things when you honestly feel like you're just trying to survive. Like I felt like we were just trying to survive. Like our motto was surviving, not thriving for a while.
I'm trying to imagine that doctor's conversation of you saying, "Oh yes, I've just given birth, and what are you trying to do?" Well, I'm training for this 100-mile race. How long ago did you give birth? Oh, What, a week or two?
Yeah. Well, my doctor knew, obviously, how into running I was. And eventually she found out I was a professional runner and then found out it was mountain running and it was ultra distance. She slowly got more and more information. And I would always ask her, like, okay, so how long is this going to take me to, like, get back to running? She's like, well, you know what? At least just wait till your first appointment, which is supposed to be 6 weeks after you give birth. So I did that.
Okay.
On my first.
Okay. On your first.
No running. I was very, I was like, okay, just listen to her, just do it. So didn't run for 6 weeks. I get there and she tells me, yeah, you're good. You can probably start running. And I'm like, but what do you mean exactly? Because do you know what I'm going to do if you tell me that and I leave here? Like, I'm going to go run like 3 hours. I'm not going to go jog for 20 minutes. And, I slowly built my way up, but I did go run that day. But then my second kid, I felt like I had this in the bag. I knew exactly what I was doing. I ran through the whole pregnancy, felt great until 2 days before she was born, I ran.
What?
And then I only took a week off after.
I was joking when I said a week. You actually only took a week.
I only took a week the second time.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, whether that was smart or not, I'm not sure because I had some pain for a while, but I'm good now.
They do say, I mean, I know I'm just a male. I'm not entirely qualified to comment on this, but I'm going to try anyway. So long as you were already doing it when you got pregnant, as far as some sort of a form of exercise, you can continue to do it, but don't take up anything new. Is that still doctor's advice?
It is, and they're learning more and more about, like, obviously activity is good and women shouldn't just sit there for 9 months and do nothing. I think it's really hard. I think before this was my theory on it. The safe answer for doctors was, yeah, don't do that. Because there wasn't studies, like you can't really study pregnant women. You can't tell them to go run 1,000,000 miles and see what happens.
You could try.
It's, like who wants to be the guinea pig for that?
Yeah.
And so luckily, I mean, a lot of advances had happened by the time I got pregnant. And at least we were at the point where they said, whatever level you were at, you can continue until it starts to not feel right. And that seems very vague, but once you're pregnant, at least I totally understood what that meant. It was like, I felt good. All of a sudden it was like, oh, this is weird. And then I would stop. And sometimes it would just be for that day. Sometimes it would be for a few days. And then you feel good again. You could just, at least I could just go run a little bit at least. So that was the main advice. Pretty much the only advice I got was you can stick to what you were doing before. But again, I mean, at the beginning I had to be like, okay, but listen, lady, do you know what I was doing before? Like, I don't think you'd advise me to go run UTMB right now. So, they were also basing it off of what is normal for people to do. And so I think it's a little hard to give ultra runners, some of that advice,
Well, how long are we talking from birth of second child to first race?
7 months.
And how long was that race?
I did 100K.
100K.
Yeah.
It was all right? Did it feel okay?
Well, I finished it. I got fourth. It wasn't bad.
Oh, sure. That's good.
It was the Bandera 100K. Okay, so, and I had some issues. I had mainly GI issues.
Okay.
Which I think totally made sense, especially now, like looking back on it. Your core just gets ripped apart after you have kids. And it's like, I mean, trying to run 100 miles and then take in food at the same time, I mean, your body just does not want to do that. And it kind of can't. And so I had so many GI issues, but I still managed to get fourth. So I was pretty happy about it. And then 5 weeks later, I actually went to Tarawera.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was so excited to go to Tarawera, and I felt like the first 100K I had done was pretty good considering I was only like 7 months post second kid. And I was way too excited and went out way too hot. And I think I ran a 50K PR in the 100K. And then I died a slow death.
It sounds like a classic Tarawera 100K race, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone goes out so hard, especially through all the forestry trails there. You just feel like you're $1 million. You've been tapering. You feel great. You know, it's not too hot yet. Yeah.
Well, When I remember coming through the sulfur fields so we had kind of a changed route because of the weather.
Oh, yep.
It was the year Lucy won the 100-miler, Lucy Bartholomew.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of loops. Like the 100-miler had to do tons of those loops.
2023.
Yes, 2023. And I remember coming in the sulfur fields and I was barely behind Ryan Montgomery, who was the third male. Barely. And he's all excited and I was like, oh no. And that was just when it started to really go downhill. So it's really funny to look at now. But at the time it was, not very funny.
So that's the end of the first loop as you're coming into the finish line and then you have to go back out again, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking like a few minutes and that's halfway into the race.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. Yeah.
That was a hot day.
It was fun though. I still finished.
It's quite amazing.
It's interesting, like thinking about, because you came into pregnancy as a sponsored athlete, like were there any kind of, obviously like you're probably feeling pressures, like you're still sponsored by the same company, I believe. How did that go for you? Because often with sponsorships, I don't know if, I don't have a great understanding, but I probably have a better understanding than most listeners. But often sponsorships kind of, dictated by performance. So what happens there?
Yeah, I think there's still a long way to go in how you compensate someone when they can't earn like bonus money. Because obviously, even if someone keeps your same contract, you're clearly not going to earn that bonus money. You're not racing. And then postpartum, you're typically not racing for a while. Also, like 7 months postpartum for me was early. Like people thought that was a little crazy. And,
No
maybe
comment.
the shorter distances, but still, even those, they're just, they're so fast. Like even that's hard too. And I think I felt very supported, at least like emotionally. Well, even in my contract, I think I did for the most part, but I still found a lot of the problems with there needs to be a way to like involve people when they're pregnant in a way they can make up for that lack of performance money, like that they're not going to get. Because a lot of times, a lot of your money comes from earning bonuses. Yeah. So you might still get your salary, which I did, but no matter how great your bonus is, you're probably not going to get it for a few years.
Yeah.
Realistically. Sometimes people will. There's people who do incredible things. And I even did pretty good, but a lot of times you don't get money unless it's like top 3 or winning.
Yeah, I was wondering what is a bonus? Like how high do you have to place for bonuses?
Yeah, typically a podium at least. It's a pretty significant difference between the amount you make from first to third, which is understandable. It's very hard to win a race. But top 3 at these races is hard. Like does not come easy, especially now with the way that the sport has grown, which I don't necessarily think it should be easy, but it's not exactly fair for a while, and I don't really have the best answer yet other than, with all these other ways of sponsorship, of things being important in sponsorship, like social media and events and, going to trade shows or activations or even going to a race and just being there to crew or like hang out with people and do shakeout runs and that sort of thing. Like you could compensate women in that way and make up for what they can't earn in bonus money. But I did feel, overall I've felt very supported, but I'd still say the financial portion of it for pretty much every brand has not figured out a way or hasn't through their actions put into place a way to make up for that.
Yeah, I wonder even if you kind of go, let's look at performance bonuses for the past, 2 years prior to pregnancy and kind of divide that and go, okay, well, let's just apply this amount to kind of see you through the next couple of years to take that pressure off. It's really interesting, and I think it's good to have these conversations. And as a female runner, like I want to support the brands that are supporting female runners through these patches, and it's really motivating to see people like yourself go like navigate this period and still get back to running strong and performing at that high level.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I've been with Ultra for so long, and some of my other brands for so long. I'm not totally sure how every brand, if they're all as supportive. I think things have gotten a lot better than when, like Kara Goucher has been very public about
Yeah.
her
Alison
lack
Felix
of support,
as well.
and
Yeah.
Alison Felix and Alicia Montano, who's actually also with Ultra. So it's come a long way in that sense. Like it used to be that pregnancy was considered an injury. And so
Whoa.
a lot of contracts, I mean, no joke, this is crazy. A lot of contracts, the wording is that if you have an injury and you can't race for 6 months, then your contract gets either cut or canceled or whatever. And then it's another few months. And then if it hadn't been canceled yet, it's canceled. Like that's how a lot of the contracts were. And they considered pregnancy an injury. And so if you didn't race within 6 months, which you wouldn't, unless you're racing pregnant, I guess, and then immediately after you have a kid.
So we went from the 1960s of your uterus will fall out if you run a marathon
Yeah.
to pregnancy is an injury. We're very slowly getting there, but it is slow, isn't it? I mean, UTMB, it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't defer.
Yeah.
2-3 years ago?
Yeah, same with Western States, because I remember Jackie Merritt. So this is in my time, which like I've been in it for like 10 years, 11 years maybe. But, I know a lot of people have been in it way longer than that. And I remember Jackie Merritt got pregnant, I think it was 2017. And Western States didn't have a pregnancy policy yet. You couldn't defer.
2017.
So she never got her spot rolled over. And I remembered that so well. And, I never thought about it quite as much until I actually got pregnant myself. And it's made me really just feel for those people so much more and like almost feel bad that I like didn't do anything for it, like stick up for them in some way or like just be louder about it or like, hey, Western States, like,
yeah,
come on. I mean, someone did obviously because they put a pregnancy policy into place.
What is the policy?
They can defer forever.
Oh, forever.
Forever. Yeah. No time period on it, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. UTMB's is 5 years.
Okay.
Which is pretty good. But, it does take people quite a while. I mean, my kid's almost 4 and I've raced UTMB more times than I should have, but, I'd say to feel maybe 100% ready for most people, it could take that long, I think.
Yeah, and I guess the one saving grace is UTMB is slightly easier to get into than Western States. Easy being relative. It's not quite the 10-year wait. I saw the odds for Western coming up with the lottery, and it's 0.4%, it looks like, for your first, if you're on one ticket. 0.4.
I know. I'm really crossing my fingers for that lottery. Yeah.
Have you got a bunch of tickets in?
I only have 2, I think.
Okay.
Well, 2 years worth. So that's like, doesn't it double? So it's 4 tickets or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a very low chance. Yeah. I'm also going to Chianti to race. So to attempt a golden ticket. But
I've heard that's going to be hot competition there. I know in the men's race, I don't know about the women, but I was told recently who was racing. I can't remember now. But I remember thinking, whoa. Martin was talking about it and he was saying, there's some really hot competition there. It's going to be quite a watched race, hey?
Yeah, I keep hearing that more and more. So I recently hired Robbie Britton. Do you guys know him?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, as a coach. And so I just started working with him. And he told me that too, that a lot of people who I probably wouldn't know, like a lot of Italian women are going to be there and it's going to be pretty competitive. So we'll see.
Plus the travel too. I mean, do you find, obviously long travel for races, how early are you going to get there for one like this, which is of such high importance?
Well, that's hard too, because it's hard on our family, obviously, to like, if we all go, that's hard. And if I go alone, that's also hard because I can't be gone super long. We've kind of worked it out to where like the max I would do is probably a week before. I don't know if I need that long or not. I think I went over about a week early for UTMB and I felt, when you have nothing to do and all you can do is just sleep. I was ready in like 3 days. I'm like, get me out of here. Let's go.
Yeah,
So
when you travel with family, it's so much harder to get ready for that race, isn't it? You've just
yeah, it takes forever. I mean, you just never get rested, you
so
know?
many bags and to carry around and all the travel and the full car and the sleepless nights. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so nice to have them at the finish. But all of the work that goes into it, I think I'd rather just have them watch it on the live stream.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, earlier you talked about, you've been in the sport for a decade now. And I mean, I am pretty similar and I feel like I've noticed a lot of changes over that time, but I'm keen to hear, what has changed from when you got into the sport until now.
Oh man. Well, I remember getting into it and it was very much like, yes, I want to compete. This is super cool, but also this is like the coolest job ever to just like travel around to these cool places. Like all these trail races, why do people run on the road? Like you get to go to places like New Zealand and run around the woods forever. Like that's pretty awesome. And you get to go with your friends. That's how I felt. And so I just had a blast. Like it was so much fun. And not that I don't have a blast now. It was just very different when the only thing I had to pay attention to was myself. And so I think, I'm sure part of having blast was that I performed well a lot of the time, but I think it went more in the reverse. Like I enjoyed it a lot. And so it helped my performance because I would honestly show up to these things and like, I was ready to throw down, but I could not care any less about if I got first or last. Like I just was so excited to go run hard and see if I could hang on. And I think in a lot of ways that like helps you not hold back and helps you get more out of yourself. I think ever since I've had kids, the sport's changed over those years. And, between the pandemic and just the time period, it's gotten really competitive. It's gotten a lot of younger people in it. These fast people in their 20s coming out of college, like they skip the road scene and go straight to it. Probably because they've realized it's way cooler and way more fun. And so it's super competitive. And I think that adds a lot of pressure to make it a little more serious. And so I've noticed for me, I've had to really, especially while getting competitive and having kids at the same time, I've had to really remember why I'm doing it and not be so caught up in the fact that this is going to be super competitive and hard to do well at. And I'm going to give it the best that I can, but that's all you can do, Whereas like before, I just didn't really like think about it. I just enjoyed it and ran hard. And I tend to overthink it a little more now because of the change in the sport and the competition and that pressure of, getting back to normal as a professional while it being harder because the sport has changed so much.
Do you think, we see a lot of people come into the sport, shine very brightly for maybe a year or two, and then they're gone. Like you never hear of them again. What do you think is the key to have kind of longevity in the sport, and especially at a performance kind of level like you are?
Yeah, I think, I was just telling Justin, my husband, that I wish I had a little bit more of that obsessiveness that people get, because I think it helps people do really well. But I think a lot of times it also makes them do really well for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm very much, I'm just a little bit more level about it. Like, and even before I had kids, I was like that, which has probably helped me stay in it with kids, is that it's not like my whole life isn't running. Like it kind of is because, it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of time. You kind of have to dedicate yourself to it.
It's a job
But
too, isn't it?
it's a job. Yeah. And all of our friends are in it. It's like, it kind of is our life. But at the same time, if you do poorly at a race, it's not the end of the world. Who cares? And like your kids don't care. They want you to take them to the playground. You don't
get a phone call from Ultra saying, "Oh, 15th. Oh."
No. Yeah, you just have to kind of like move on. If it's bad, you just move on from it. And I think that thought process with it has helped me stay in it longer, especially through these really hard postpartum years where it's not, I've had a lot of bad days. I mean, I've had some good ones, but I've had a lot of bad ones. So, but I'm still in it. I'm still trying. I know I can get better. It just takes a while.
Is Justin, obviously he's a heck of an athlete as well. I think he got second, didn't he, when he came down to Tarawera?
Yeah.
In some ridiculous time. I did write it down. Where has it? Oh, it's gone. It was
I think it was
8.5 hours or something insane.
Yeah, 8:25.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's 2 runners in a household, or 2 high-performing runners in a household with 2 children. There's a heck of a dynamic there. How's the juggle between who gets to train and when?
You know, I think we do it pretty well, but it's taken a little bit of figuring it out. Lucky for me, Justin works, well, it's not super lucky, but he works night shifts. And so he's a doctor.
Oh, right. Okay.
He also works in Minnesota, and we live in Colorado. So he travels.
My geography, I'm trying to figure out how far away that is.
So it's only about a 90-minute flight, but he has to fly.
Oh, you have to fly.
Yeah. So he flies there for a week. So there's, oh my gosh, there's so many little chaotic things that we've been through.
It's hard out.
Like, I can't even believe I survived it. But the first couple years of kids, we had no childcare. Our families don't live here. We had no nanny. We live in the mountains. So it's really hard to get childcare up here. And plus, childcare is just like overloaded. There's not enough people for it, and it's super expensive. So it's hard to even find it, even in town. And so he would fly to Minnesota and work for 7 to 10 days straight, and obviously not come home during that time. And I was alone with both kids.
Oh my goodness.
Breastfeeding both kids. I mean, up all night. Running on the treadmill to get my training. I still train through all of it. I don't know how. And
to keep you sane, possibly, it's probably
exactly.
It's your downtime, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like kind of a battle in your head. Do I take a nap or do I train? I think I need to train, actually.
Train's always the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I have the obsessive part a little bit. Yeah. And so when he would be here, he kind of just stayed on that schedule. And so I would get the first run of the day. I would have to wait until he woke up, but I'd get the first run, which I love because I'm a morning person. And he was always more of an afternoon person. And so it was great. We didn't have to fight over the mornings. I think most people would be fighting over first shift.
Yep.
So that went decently for a while, although it was very chaotic. It was like I took care of the kids while he slept. Then I ran. He took care of the kids. Then he ran. And it was like bath time, just the day's over.
I'm trying to imagine him coming home after 10 days saying, "Oh, honey, I'm so tired." And you'd be like, "I don't care. Take them.
Yeah.
Take them."
Well, he would say that. And I'd be like, "Are you kidding me? You're tired?" Yeah, that worked. It worked pretty well. I mean, he doesn't, because of his job, he works really hard for a week, which is hard for me also. So it's hard for both of us for a week. And then he gets a few weeks off. And so that's a lot easier. It was a lot more challenging when we had to basically just switch off who got first and second run before we had childcare. And now they're in school. And so they go to school 5 days a week, and it feels like luxury.
Yeah. Wow. Can I ask what's possibly a stupid question? It's one of two things. Is there any good trail running in Minneapolis? Or is there any hospitals in Boulder? Like a doctor
can... I don't think I would ever move to Minneapolis. Right. It's very much a city, and there's not many trails. And there's basically one park called Afton, and it's not accessible in the winter because the skiers take it over, basically.
Ah, okay.
It's closed for skiing, I think. The whole thing. But it's the only place, and so it's road running. There's a couple like city trails, but I don't consider those trails. And then here, he tried to get a job here a few times, and the pay is really bad. Like, you'd have to work. He'd actually end up being gone more because he'd have to work more. Uh-huh. So his schedule would be very different. He'd work twice as much, Gotcha. So it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, gee, that's crazy, isn't it? It's obviously not a set rate across the country. Every state has their own salaries.
Yeah, it's state specific. It's really weird, and I'm not sure why, because the cost of living in Colorado is way higher than Minnesota.
Right. goodness.
So it doesn't really make sense, but a lot of things don't make sense. So
Yeah, the idea that flying to work is more economical and a better idea than working locally. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, and too, where we live, I mean, he'd have to drive. He'd probably be gone like 14 hours at a time, and have to work like 2 weeks straight instead of 1 week straight if he was in Colorado. So it didn't make sense.
So he's the one that has to train on all these rubbish city trails when he's away, right?
Yeah, but I think it makes him really fast because he's pretty fast. And I've really lost that speed because, sometimes I just like to, hang out in the mountains and not do so much speed work. So, but he gets stuck doing speed work in Minnesota. So it's paid off for him.
There's like some trails by the river there, isn't there, in Boulder? I think I've seen Sage Canaday do his little sort of speed sessions all along the river there.
Oh, yeah.
A tiny bit of flat.
Such great trails. I don't, I got it. Well, Robbie's made me do a lot of speed work lately, which actually I've enjoyed. But I have to have someone else tell me to do it.
That sounds familiar. I think a lot of trail runners can relate to that. Nobody likes doing speed work. They just want to muck around on the trails. But as you say, it helps. It makes you fast. Really important.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it with him telling me to do it. But if I coached myself for a long time and I just kept getting to the point where I'm like, the trails are dry. I'm just going to go run around on the trails. I can say about speed work for later.
That might also be like motherhood and the juggle, though, and trying to kind of navigate. Like, it's probably quite a good time to self-coach when you know that you've had no sleep or you've got a sick child
totally.
or something
I think
like
for a
that.
while it would have been really hard for someone to coach me. I mean, you probably know, Allie. Like, I mean, sometimes too, when you're tired and the only time you get away is running, it's like you don't want to do speed work. You just want to like go have some fun.
Yeah. Hey, you were a coach, Amanda. What would you say are the 3 most important things that an athlete should focus on to improve, and why?
Well, number 1 is probably what I would imagine everyone would say, and it'd be consistency.
Yeah.
Even I have this friend who's also a mom. She just had her second kid, and she used to do a lot of ultra running, and she texts me all the time about coaching stuff, and she's like, oh, I can't. I'm like trying to train for this, but I just give up. I like have 90 minutes scheduled and I just don't do it because I know I can't get it in. I'm like, even if you have 10 minutes, just go do 10 minutes. At least you're moving. Like your body is going to adapt a lot better if you're moving at least a little bit most days instead of, oh, I don't have 90 minutes, so I can't do it. And it might sound like or even feel like it doesn't help, but it helps. It helps a lot. And sometimes you'll get out there and you'll think, oh, I can't do 90 minutes because I'm too tired, even if you have the time. And sometimes you end up being fine. You have 30 minutes, you feel a lot better, and then you just keep going. So consistency for sure. I'd also say be specific to yourself and what you feel and don't try to match other people's training. Might need to get off Strava.
Surely not.
Yeah. I mean, some people are fine. Sometimes that's motivating. Some people, it's not very motivating. So it doesn't matter if someone's running 100 miles a week and you only do 30. Like, if that's what you have time for and you feel good doing it, like, that's a lot better than 0. And if you even tried to do 100 miles, you probably couldn't keep it up anyways. You might end up getting injured.
30 miles is more than 99% of the population does anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but I think a lot of people get into it and they're like, oh, ultra running. I don't have time to train for that. And it's like, well, depends on, your goal. And it really depends on who you are. Like, people adapt so differently and there's different ways that you can do it. Even if, like, I could train in a high volume way that would look a lot different than if I don't have the time for high volume. I would do more, quality work and maybe some cross training or something. There's a lot of ways you can do it. And it doesn't have to just be run 100 miles a week.
Even that dirty word, speed work.
That you got to do that speed work. I know. And even I hate it sometimes. I'm getting better. I'm liking it now.
Was that 3, Ellie? Was it?
I don't know.
Well,
are we 2? Is it 2?
It was a mishmash of things. It was probably 3, but it was technically only 2. Well, I guess kind of what I said was just make it fit your lifestyle, and then it's going to help you in both those ways. It's going to help you be more consistent and maintain the training that you want to, or that you need to keep up. And sometimes that's only a few miles a week, but if you stack that over a month, that ends up being more than if you try to do one big week and you're just dead from it and it just doesn't fit your life, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be achievable.
You managed to keep that consistency going even when pregnant, which is amazing, you know. So you're practicing what you preach.
Yeah. I mean, it was very hard to keep that up. And sometimes it was very slow. Like I think people think too, oh, you ran your whole pregnancy? Like, and then they think I ran, you know, the typical volume I run or the speed that I can run or whatever. And it's like, no, a lot of times that was like 20 minutes, slow jogging, you know, even with some walks in there. But I did keep it up, but I felt in pretty decent shape by the end of it, you know, even with that. And that's where the consistency part does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You've got so many amazing races under your belt on many different types of terrain. What do you feel is your best type of trail from a performance standpoint? And what are your career highlights? Anything that's a monkey on your back that you want to remedy?
Oh, I got a lot of monkeys. Oof. UTMB is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to Justin about that one. Think I'm taking a year off of the big UTMB, but I'll come back to that one eventually. I've got to do that one a little better. But I think what I enjoy and what I end up being better at is mountainous, but not technical.
Okay.
And so, I mean, my second at CCC, I think, shows that because it's not technical, but it's pretty mountainous.
Yeah.
But it's weirdly fast. Like you can run so much of it and pretty quick too. And I think that's what I do best and what I enjoy.
Depending on who you are as to how fast you can run that terrain.
Well, yeah, it's all relative.
Yeah, I just it makes you feel better. I think you ran about 29, late 29s, is that right? Hours for UTMB, your last UTMB, is that right?
Oh, the last finished. Yeah, I dropped this
finish.
year. 2023, I finished it. It was, 29 and a half hours.
And see, you're not happy with that, but you beat me by 6 hours if that makes you feel any better.
Well, I was on track. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't see you out there because at one point I was on track for like 36 hours.
Oh, right.
And then,
wow, that's a rally.
Yeah. Well, and when I was told that, okay, this is why people always should keep going and never listen to that stuff. Because it's so long, it can really turn around a lot. Because I was on pace for that. And I was like, man, you know, I just can't. What
do that. What sort of losers would take that long, man?
I'm like, I just don't want to do that much longer. It was a rough day. You know, I had some sacrum pain I was dealing with still from post-kids that I've finally figured out. And
good.
My friend, luckily, came up to me. He was having an awful day. He should have been well ahead of me. And he came from behind me. And he was like, no, we're going to finish. And I was like, damn it, Matt. And I went with him and we finished and we took off, 6.5 hours from that estimated time. So
that's huge. It's amazing.
It wasn't bad in the end.
Yeah. Obviously it's lottery season. You've got 2 tickets, maybe, or 4. Hard Rock, is that on your radar?
Well, because I dropped UTMB, I actually can't even enter it.
Ah, man.
I know. They have a very short list.
It is, yeah, true.
But I'm going a little bit different route. I think I've finally figured out my postpartum pains that I had. I got a strength coach and figured out some issues that I had that was giving me this bad sacrum pain that made me think it was a stress fracture. It's totally gone now. And so I'm able to do that speed work that I hated for a long time without any pain. And so I'm kind of going the other route where I'm going to do some faster stuff. So taking a year off UTMB, I do really want to get into Western States. But as we all know, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Chianti if I don't get in the lottery with my small odds. Going to Chianti. Hopefully I can get a ticket there. If I don't, I'm going to do Broken Arrow, some shorter stuff, and then CCC.
Cool.
Brilliant. Are you able? I don't know how personal it is, but there may be some people going, I have this same problem, sacrum.
Sacrum.
Yeah, you've obviously gone to great lengths to figure out what was going on. Was it one of those eureka moments, or was it something that was just, no, there's no magic fix to this, I need to do all of these things?
So there actually was a magic fix. It takes some work, but it's somewhat of a magic fix. So you got to do your lifting and mobility and stuff, but it was my adductors.
Okay.
Which turns out is a pretty common thing that gets really weak in pregnancy. That was the main thing. I had a few, my core is still still a little separated, not super strong, but my adductors were pulling into my hamstrings and my back and causing sacrum pain. And I pretty much just did some pretty simple mobility and strength work and like some breathing stuff. And it seemed to fix it.
Oh, very, very happy to hear that.
And it was, I know, yeah. I mean, I wish I would have went to this strength coach a long time ago because it really didn't take that long to fix. And I remember at Tarawera when I ran it and ran my 50K PR in the first half of the 100K, that my sacrum was killing me. And that whole second half, I was just, because faster running really hurt it a lot. I think those muscles just couldn't really keep up. They just weren't like strong enough and everything was overcompensating. And man, I had some painful races, but.
Would you say that now you do a heck of a lot more strength work than you did in your first years of trail running? Or have you always done it?
I've always actually done strength training.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty durable. I don't usually get injured. My only real injuries have been a couple ankle rolls, which I don't really count as injuries, like that just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And then this sacrum thing. And so I was just not doing the right things.
Yeah. So the two things that trail runners hate, speed work and strength work. So at least you like one of those two things.
Yeah, I came from a fitness background, and so I was always into strength training. I used to be a personal trainer in a gym. I taught fitness classes, like yelling on the bike,
Oh, really? I can imagine that,
yeah. Which I think is just so funny now. But so I think I've just always had that in my head.
And did you come from the road and the track? Like, was that before hitting the trails? Did you have sort of a track or road background, like the real fast stuff?
Well, I ran track in high school my last year, and I ended up going to college and running for a couple of years. It was just a D3 school, so it wasn't like D1 super good, but it was okay.
Oh, wow. So there's categories for colleges. I don't know what that means, D1 and D3.
Yeah, so D1s are really good people. They typically they get a lot of scholarships, school paid for because of their athletics. D3 is more, you typically can get, I got academic scholarships, but not athletic ones. It doesn't take quite as good of a time to go run at D3.
Okay.
So I was good, but not great.
How many levels are there? D1, 2, 3,
3.
4? Oh, 3. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, D1, D2, D3.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And D3 is usually more of an academic-focused school that has athletic programs. Yeah, so I ran there, and then I didn't really like the college vibe. It was, I don't know, I just didn't mesh with it. It was a little too serious. They'll go through some serious lengths to be good, and I was just like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm just way too, probably the fitness background, I'm way too, health focused to do some of this stuff that's just, not good for you long term.
I want to unpack that, but I'm not sure if I should ask the question. What sort of stuff?
Well, not like doping or anything like that. At least not at our college. Okay. More like the fueling part and losing weight and that sort of thing. That's pretty common, or it was at the time.
Coaches screaming at female athletes to lose weight, quite a common theme, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty common. I think it's getting better, but I wasn't into that. And I quit and I went and ran some road stuff just on my own for a couple years. And pretty much almost immediately found out about trail running. And then within a couple years, then I was like, what am I doing this road stuff for? This is way better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The occasional road run's a bit of fun, but yeah, trails for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can probably ask Amanda. Well, first of all, say thank you so much for joining us. It's been a really fabulous chat, and lots of thought-provoking is probably the right word to use there. And
hopefully that's good.
Yeah, no, it is good. And we're going to ask you the question that we ask everyone who comes on Dirt Church Radio, and that is, Amanda Basham, what is your greatest run ever?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I feel like I need to mention the fact that it's gotten really dark around me because it's now dark outside and I don't have my light on.
We can't see your amazing red hair anymore. It's gone black.
Yeah, kind of popping out there. Oh, man, my greatest run ever of all time.
It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit or anything like that. It can be
anything.
Beating Justin at a 5K, whatever.
Well, you know what? Actually, one time after Tarawera, I love Tarawera, but after Tarawera, I went and ran Shot Over Moonlight Marathon.
Oh, cool.
That was a really cool experience. We flew in a helicopter to the start.
That's right,
it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, talk about a way to get stoked for a race. This is awesome. And Madge was actually there, Sally McRae. I thought a couple, Nancy, I think she beat me.
Shout out to Nancy.
Yeah. Oof. She is fast. Talk about fast people.
Yeah.
That was super cool. I mean, I have so many good ones, but I really did like running there. I think the whole experience was super cool. But there's so many good trails here too. I remember one of my first introductions to trail running was running in the Marin Headlands. Do you guys know of that area?
Yeah, north of San Francisco. Is that right? Over the bridge?
Yeah. Right outside of San Francisco. I mean, to go from like road running and not understanding what trail running is and then running around the Marin Headlands it'll suck you in easily. Mm. It's so nice. I mean, such fast, big, beautiful mountains, and it was amazing.
Is that redwood country? Is that where all the big giant redwoods are?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You live in a beautiful place. I mean, I don't know. Ellie and I both live in cities. The thought of having all these incredible trails right outside your door must be amazing. These are obviously decisions you've made. You're there for a reason.
Yeah, and even still, I've ran these trails. So there's a trail down the street 2 miles from our house called Walker Ranch, and it's an amazing trail. I don't know why I like it so much, but I've ran it since I think the first time I ran it is like 2012, and still I'll stop and take photos. Aww. And I'm like, you know how many photos I have of this trail on my on my phone from the last 12 years? Like, this is crazy. But it's so, like, every time I'm just like, wow, this place is awesome.
And is snow a problem, like getting outside in the middle of winter? Can you still get out there, or is it a bit rough?
It has rough days, but it's really pretty mild for like a mountain wintry town. Like, we get quite a bit of snow, but if up in the mountains is a little too much, we can just drive down to town and it's pretty nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. I'll stop asking questions.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, no worries. I got answers for days.
We wish you luck with your next race. Hopefully that golden ticket comes your way.
Yeah, thank you.
And a magical 2025 follows as a result.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, hopefully that'd be ideal.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10 nerves, like lining up, say, at Western States versus interviewing Amanda Basham, which one was more nerve-wracking?
Oh, that's quite a good question. I was quite nervous recording Amanda. Yeah, just because I don't know, like, I still have that, like, imposter syndrome. Like, absolutely. Like, these pro athletes are just on a total another level to anything I've ever done. And I know this because I've raced with people who are professional athletes many times, and they're just off in the distance, and they float, and I'm always so impressed with them. So therefore, I still have that sort of like, oh my goodness, this is someone amazing. I've got to talk to them. What if they find me stupid and they laugh at I have all of that. Whereas I guess lining up for Western, it's like, no, you've done the work, believe in yourself, get it right, execute correctly, and you'll be okay. So maybe Amanda Bash. I'll get better at it. I'll get more used to it. But for now, it's still a bit scary.
No, it's look, imposter syndrome is always there. But incredible interview, and thank you so much. And thank you so much to Amanda, and thank you so much to all the people listening. Dirt Church Radio is presented by me, Matt Raymond.
Alec Pottinger, and me, Andrew McDowell.
And we're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It really helps. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, and you can email us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to sign up to our Substack for the weekly newsletter and Aid Station podcast.
And don't forget to write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too. Thanks to our supporters Further Faster, That's It, Squadron, and our Substack subscribers in the DCR Aid Station crew.
Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks as we lead into the one and only Tarawera Ultra Marathon.
Mā te wā.